M. The Media Project. Driven by data. Driven by technology. Driven by community development. Driven by the need to get results for your project. SM Graves Associates. Delivering real estate development to you, including project management and pre-development services with a keen focus on delivering community-oriented projects. We build profitable projects that respond to the needs of your neighborhood. Join the SMG family. Find us at smgravesassociates.com.
Hello, welcome. This is Ryan Munn, your host today. My co-hosts are unavailable, but we are very excited to share another Innovato2 story about amazing Vermont entrepreneurship. And with a couple folks that I met about 2 years ago now, maybe at one of the Accelerator pitch events. And really excited about the recent success that they've had and the general story, the adventure that they've gone through to get here. And so today with us, we have Jacob Friedman, the D in there, Jacob Friedman, and Nathaniel Klein, tuning in from, you guys are in Middlebury now?
Workshops in Moncton.
Moncton, okay, right on. Awesome. So all around the state, we've connected, watched this adventure grow, very Vermont business, very artistic and crafty, as well as innovative. And so really excited to share your stories today. And first, I want to start off, if you wouldn't mind, I'll just have Jacob, you go ahead and start first and just give me a quick background on yourself, quick kind of personal history leading up to coming to Vermont.
Yeah, my name is Jacob Friedman. I am really excited to be on the podcast today with my business partner, Nathaniel Klein. Here, he'll introduce himself. But yeah, I don't even know where to start. Yeah, I mean, I moved to Vermont for college back in 2017, and I studied geography and environmental science up here. And I was always really drawn to the natural landscapes around Vermont. I was drawn towards, different types of studies that involve how people relate to the landscape. And so that's sort of my background.
Very cool. Very cool. And Nathaniel, similarly came from somewhere else to Vermont. Give us a quick intro of your background.
Correct. Yeah. I grew up in Newton, Massachusetts, right outside of Boston, but would come to Vermont once or twice a winter to go skiing. And that's kind of the only reason I came here. No, just kidding. When I was applying for schools, I was a shot putter. I did track and field, and I really liked the small schools conference, the NESCAC conference. And I came to look at Middlebury and was just enthralled by the beauty of the place and the landscape, and loved the fact that I could do sports and skiing and just kind of the outdoor recreation generally in this state. And I've stuck around since then because of those reasons and because of the great people I've met here.
Very nice. Awesome. Yeah, I myself have taught snowboarding here for years, and my son actually throws shot put. So I didn't realize we had that connection. But yeah, very cool. Lots of folks get very hooked with the environment here, with the opportunities for outdoor recreation and the culture. And so tell me a little bit about how you met. Did you guys go to the same college?
Yes, we did. So yeah, we both went to Middlebury College, and we met our freshman year there, mainly through ski instructing. We were both ski instructors at the Middlebury Snow Bowl. Both had grown up skiing, and Jacob had been a previous ski instructor in Massachusetts. I never had done it before, but really had worked with kids in the past, and that's really what they were looking for in that job. But we taught there all throughout college and really connected with our community there, and that's kind of where we got our start making mountain models and mountain maps. It was originally called the Making Maps Project.
Yeah,
something like
3 wood carved landscape model.
Yeah, the title was way too long in the beginning, but we eventually figured it out. And that was the first one we ever made, was a mountain map of the Middlebury College Snow Bowl.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, you did that in wood?
Yes. Yeah, we were, I'd done some woodworking in the past with my grandfather, but just kind of felt like a good material for it. And we were able to find someone on campus with some pieces of scrap wood that we glued together, and also some other scrap wood to test on, because it took us a couple tries to get it just right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very
A
cool.
good draw for why we first made one of these maps is we had a fantastic supervisor at the Middlebury Snow Bowl, and she just really supported us kind of in all of our all the ideas that we had, all the different projects that we wanted to put on. And so we sort of put our heads together. I was studying geography at the time, and Alex, our third business partner who couldn't join us today, he was really interested in machinery, specifically CNC routers, and how you could sort of create anything out of anything using one of these machines like a 3D printer, but in reverse. So we put our heads together. We were like, what if we made a 3D map of the Middlebury Snow Bowl and gave it to Daphne, our supervisor? That would be a really cool gift. And so we spent a month or so prototyping the project, figuring out how we could carve out a 3D mock-up of the mountain. And when we gave it to her, she thought it was such a meaningful gift that it made her cry. And yeah, that was the first one that we ever made, and gave us the first inkling that there might be a business here. But at that time, we were only thinking about it as an art project and as a cool gift and as a way to honor someone who is special to us in a place that really mattered to her.
Very cool. So there wasn't even any school credit involved in that project?
No.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Later that semester, we entered into there was a big art show on campus, and people would put on performances and musical shows and all sorts of stuff. And we did a big model of the Adirondacks, which was a really cool project, except we ran out of time. So we were missing one section of the High Peaks region, but it was close enough. We made it work. And made a few more to give away to fellow ski instructors who were retiring or graduating. But ultimately, for that first semester, it was really just a passion project, and remained a passion project until our senior year of college, when we took an entrepreneurship class. And the goal was to turn this idea into an actual business and an actual business plan, because before that, we really had no sense what we were doing, because Jacob studied geography, I studied chemistry, Alex studied biochemistry. So our business skills needed a little bit shaping up.
Very cool. Very cool. A lot of times we talk about like innovative tech on here, and, one really interesting, comment or tagline that's come up is fall in love with the problem, right? As opposed to the solution. But, in what you're talking about, it's more like fall in love with the project, right? Like you're just doing something that was a bit of a labor of love, and lo and behold, you discovered something that people find very valuable, right?
Well, yeah, and that was in that entrepreneurship class. That was exactly what they said. It's you need to have a problem that you're trying to solve with your product. And up until that point, we weren't even thinking about it that way. We were like, people enjoy these maps. They think they're really cool. That should be enough to sell something. But that's not how the market works. The market relies on a problem, and that you need to have a product that fills that gap. So in that research, what we found was that gifts and the gift market is really saturated with things that people don't need or don't want, or especially are not meaningful. And so the value proposition that we came up with early on was that this is a really meaningful gift, and it fills that sort of sense of place, that nostalgia, that connection between people. We didn't hone it super well at that point, and we'll talk about that when we get to the accelerator. But that was sort of our first working understanding of our problem. And so when we finished that 1 month class, we had some orders that came in, and we were still in college at this point. But the orders that came in felt like enough to us at the time, where we were like, we actually might have a business here. So we incorporated as Treeline Terrains in April of 2021. And we set out with our new college degrees to run and grow this business and see what we could do with it.
Very cool. So what are your degrees?
So I studied geography and environmental science.
Okay. And then what was yours, Jacob?
Mine was chemistry.
Chemistry.
Sorry, I'm Jake.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yes, Nathaniel. So, and then you said there was a third co-founder. What was their degree?
Biochemistry, Alex. So
Okay. Interesting.
Jacob was the most closely related to the project at that point, but we had a lot to learn still.
And I always had academic background or even an interest, I think, in entrepreneurship. I had some entrepreneurial spirit when I was growing up. My dad ran a bagel store in Worcester, Massachusetts, where I grew up. So I was always around that small business. And then me and my brother had a business selling PVC marshmallow blasters that we created out of PVC pipe, and we'd spray paint them and we'd sell them at art fairs. That's so we could buy an Xbox because we really like FIFA, the video game soccer.
Yeah.
And so that I'd say that was like the closest to the experience that any of us had with entrepreneurship.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I don't even hear anything really like machining, like in the trades. Like that was just something like, well, got to figure out how to use that, right?
Yeah. Alex was interested in machinery. His he has relatives that are in the lighting fixture business, so he was sort of around machinery, and I think had some of that know-how of how to operate machines. But yeah, it took a lot of learning and experimenting, especially at the start to figure those machines out.
Very cool. Very cool. So yeah, so I guess fast forward a little bit, you guys came out of that class, you had some orders, you thought, okay, we can make this a business of some kind. Bridge the gap from that to joining the accelerator. How much time went by? What did you accomplish in the meantime there?
I think it was about 2 years of being in business before we joined the accelerator. And I think for, the first summer, basically, we were kind of bumbling around. And we just lost our video, Ryan. I don't know if that's okay. Yeah, cool.
Like,
just making sure. You're welcome to have out. But that first summer, we didn't really know what we were doing. We had a lot to learn and we had a lot to figure out. And our strategy in the beginning was really just trying to connect with as many people as possible and get the product in front of them, just because what we were making was so new and so novel that bringing it in person for people to feel the 3D mountains and really interact with our models allowed us to get a lot of feedback that you can't lie. You really just have to show up and ask people what they think of the product.
Yeah. And I think that feedback was both in terms of the product itself, of what we could adjust and change with that product, but also how we were going about marketing it. So it was funny, Nathaniel was calling them our models because that summer, that's what we were calling them, these 3D wood-carved landscape models, which is a mouthful. What ultimately we're making is maps. We're making 3D maps, custom maps for anyone of anywhere. And then in terms of that map that we were creating, we started out with the ski maps. That was our focus because we were ski instructors. But time and time again, people were asking, oh, can you make a map of my lake? Can you make a map of my pond, of this special spot on a river, the ocean that I really care about? So our product really transitioned towards making maps of bodies of water with the topography around them, using blue epoxy resin for that water feature. So over the course of those 2 years, we had gotten some of that customer feedback and we knew what the product was needing to be more like in order to sell more of them. But I would say we still didn't really have the language around starting a business or the language around growing a business, and what it would take in order to grow from sort of operating out of a garage to operating out of a full workshop.
And I think the other thing we realized too is over time, we started to develop very specific projects and revenue streams. We could see where orders were coming from. They kind of all fit under the gift umbrella where a lot of people were buying them for other people, but not entirely. Some of them were larger installation projects where we would, an organization would say, hey, we want this in our entryway, or we want this on our wall, or we want an award plaque because we just did this large capital campaign. In the other sense, there were wholesale orders. Stores would come to us and say, hey, I want 30 of this specific map. I know it will sell here. So as time went on, we kind of had a better understanding of where our money was coming from. And having it broken down into those different categories really allowed us to game plan what a sales and marketing strategy would look like. And that's really where the accelerator came in. So we could say, okay, this is what our business looks like now. And this is where we want it to be in a year, in 5 years, 10 years, whatever it's going to be. And these are the steps we're going to need to take to get there.
Yeah. So where you were still in a garage at this point, right? Or had you started to find a location yet?
So yeah, we have scaled up. We sort of bounced around from someone's garage to the back corner of the wood shop. We had so many people that supported us along the way. So that's a huge part of our story, is the community that is around us in Addison County that really encouraged us and wanted us to succeed. and gave us those chances to do so. So in May of 2023, April of 2023, we moved into a 5,000 square foot workshop. We knew we needed to be in a space that size if we were going to grow, but we still didn't really have a clear plan of how we were going to do that. So shortly after, I think the accelerator started in June.
Yeah,
because it was virtual at the start. And so we had some plans for how we wanted to grow, but one idea that we had specifically was how do we sell more of these maps in bulk orders? So much of what we were doing is one-off custom pieces. That continues to be the main source of revenue for our business is the direct to consumer. But we also noticed that there was a growing wholesale market. There was a growing corporate gift market where companies or, individuals at larger corporations were buying sets of 10, 20, 50 of a map to give out as gifts or to resell. So we went into the accelerator trying to figure out how do we grow that kind of market for our business.
Very cool.
I was just saying, ultimately, we were stepping on each other's toes in the smaller workspace. And, we realized if we wanted to keep growing, we just had to keep selling. So we took the leap and took the step. And at first, the space felt enormous. It was so big. We didn't know what we were going to do with all the space, but you fill it pretty quickly just because you grow and you grow into it. And that felt really good. But yeah, then we went to the accelerator and kind of formalized our plan to really fully grow into the space.
Very cool. So this was tail end of COVID restrictions. Are people still, operating under some of those, concerns and premises? So you were, I would presume, networking fairly remotely quite a bit as well. How did you even learn about the accelerator?
We heard about it. So we tried to be pretty tapped into the Vermont Innovation Network. The Vermont Outdoor Business Alliance in particular was one group that we joined pretty early on in 2021. We were, they created a new award called the Trailblazer Award in honor of Patrick Leahy and all he's done for the Vermont outdoor recreation economy. And they commissioned us to make the award, the annual award. So we made a big map of Vermont that gets passed down from award winner each year, and then a smaller trophy as well. So we were just, building connections through the Outdoor Business Alliance. And I think it was through Kelly Alt there that she put us in touch, or she was sending us information about different accelerators. And when we heard about the Forest Product Accelerator, that was the one that most closely matched the product that we were doing. Yeah. And I think there's definitely energy around wood products in Vermont and growing the wood product industry here, especially in light of, changing economies around the world. What are the products that can come out of Vermont that are wood made and wood manufactured that can continue to boost the presence of Vermont wood to a larger economy?
It also may have come from the Northern Forest Center, which is an organization that we've been a part of and have attended webinars. And I believe Alex, our third business partner, did a whole marketing series with their organization. And I think Amy Robinson was involved there, and also Emily Bradbury, and it may have been from them as well. But they were supporters of the Forestry Accelerator and are really tapped into what's going on in the wood world. Another organization we're part of is the Vermont Woodworks Council, which is a collection of different Vermont wood manufacturers in the state. And really just building that community and building those connections has been so beneficial, both for in-person events and, like you said, online events during COVID and whatnot, as people were easing back into real life again.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So you get connected, you get a few different tips. It sounds like people bringing up this accelerator. This one in particular, the forestry one, is a great fit. So that started remote and basically ran through its whole program remote, right? So you were connecting weekly, or what was the format?
It was formatted in these sprints. So the first sprint was remote. So for a couple of days, 1 week, we would get together for a large portion of the day, and was a lot of lectures, I think, in the beginning, where it would say, all right, this is, your value proposition. This is supply chain, all these different terms that are important to know if you're starting a business or growing a business, because everyone was at different points in their business cycle, for this program. People were, like us, kind of a established small business hoping to grow a new product. Some people were much larger than us. And then other people were brand new, where they were still working on their product and what it was going to be and developing a business plan to pursue.
Very cool.
And after that first virtual sprint, we met up in person in the Northeast Kingdom and spent a week there up at Burke Mountain. And then we had another session a few months later, remote, and then we did another in-person event come November. So it was nice because we got to get together in person, but could also kind of go off on our own and work on our business plan and our go-to-market plan and all the different steps that came out of the accelerator. Because, being a small business owner or any business owner, it can be very solo. You're kind of on your own with your team a lot of the time. And by coming together in that large group, it was really great just to get feedback and work with such a great group of people. So excited.
Yeah, nice diversity of different businesses in that cohort.
With fast-moving and sweeping changes to our economy in the works, we all need to reconsider how our investments are best placed. At Partners in Housing, we believe your money is best placed locally. Utilized to increase value and provide stable and desirable housing to your neighbors. Contact Partners in Housing to find out how you can participate in local housing opportunities by joining the Partners in Housing Fund. Look us up at partnersinhousingvt.com or email us at partnersinhousingvt@gmail.com.
So were you, as far as the business was running, did you have a couple employees so some things were able to keep going, or were you guys pretty much squeezing the orders in between the work with the accelerator? What did that look like for you?
We were squeezing it all in all at once.
Yeah.
So it was go time, especially come the fall. Our busy season is the fourth quarter. It's the holiday season when people want to buy Christmas gifts specifically. And so, we were just kind of running back and forth, trying to get all those orders fulfilled and get everything blocked out. But we were prepared. We knew that this accelerator was going to be something we were dealing with, or not dealing with, but participating in for a few months. And so we knew how to prepare the holiday orders before that.
Gotcha. Nice.
And the sprint cycle was beneficial to that because you could get ahead and then fall behind and then get ahead and fall behind. And that's what deadlines are for, to get everything done by then. So there were definitely a couple of late nights of us kind of cramming before a sprint event or cramming a couple orders in before we had to head up to Burke, but it all worked out.
Yeah. And now I vaguely remember some of the companies in there, but very, very diverse companies. Did you feel like you got like what are some of the things you feel like you got from some of the other folks in that cohort?
I think the most valuable piece was the peer feedback. They, just by being in a cohort with 10 other businesses that are all going through the same curriculum, you got really consistent, good feedback from people that was sort of exposing the strengths and challenges of your business. In each of those sprints, when we got together, we would write on these big pieces of white paper the strengths and the challenges of our business. And we had those hanging in our workshop. As soon as we wrote those, we got those hung up on the wall. And just, it was a good thing to touch back on, because that is the most accurate feedback that you can get, is from other people that are looking at your business and giving you clear, unbiased feedback, because everyone wants to succeed in this accelerator. The goal is to give that feedback to one another so that you can thrive.
Right on. Hey, just curious too, have you had any connections remain from that cohort? Is there anybody you're still in touch with, either from the organizers? Did you meet an advisor from that exercise or anything like that?
Well, we're talking to one of them right now on Zoom. Yeah. We've stayed in touch with quite a few folks, I would say, on LinkedIn for sure. We've kept in touch with most of our cohort members. I think anytime anyone posts anything, we're going to support it, share it, blast it out. With advisors, I think a lot of it was just building up those connections a little bit more and showing that we're an established business in the Vermont wood product scene. There were people that maybe we had met before through the Woodworks Council, through other parts of networking across the state. But by being part of the accelerator, it was just one more way to prove that we're here and we're legitimate and that we are invested in growing our business.
Right on. So let's put a timeline on this a little bit. So, remind me again. So we graduated college when?
2021.
2021. Okay. So the 2023 was the accelerator. So that's 2 years of building the business, kind of based on the 1 month entrepreneurship class you took, right? And then other than that, figured out on your own, right? And
Well,
then,
that's not true. We had a lot of support from the Vermont Small Business Development Center. We can't tell those guys.
yep, the SPDCs. Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
They,
Yep.
they kind of helped us answer any question that we had when it would come up. So even if they didn't know the answer to something, they could point us in the direction of someone who did.
Gotcha. Okay.
Marketing,
Cool.
from product development to lawyer, legal help to copywriting, anything that came up.
Awesome. Did they help you write a business plan or get any funding? Did you have to lend any or borrow any money for the initial phases?
So we've been a bootstrapped company since day one. We have, a line of credit with the National Bank of Middlebury. So we work with local financial institutions. We did a Kickstarter campaign when we moved into our workshop, the Moncton 5,000 square foot shop. And Sarah Kearns, our advisor at the SBDC, helped us sort of figure out how we were going to do that Kickstarter campaign.
Awesome. Awesome. Right. Nobody does it on their own, right?
Right.
It requires a village really to make these things happen sometimes. And so 2023, then you get to the accelerator, you get through the crunch of fourth quarter, right? I forget what, did you guys win that pitch competition? I can't remember. No. Well, I want to point that out though, right? Like you don't have to win to be successful, right?
Sure.
Like the pitch competition is a great experience, and you learn from whoever does win, right? You get to see, what made that stick, but everything that you did learn, obviously you've applied.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't spoiled the big news yet, but let's take us through the last 2 years since leaving that accelerator, and what has running the business been like? How have you been able to apply all the things that you learned there?
So after the accelerator, I was talking about these big white pieces of paper where we wrote our strengths and our feedback of how we could grow. One of those big white pieces of paper was, where are you now? Where do you want to be in 2024? Where do you want to be in 2026? And I think the 2024 goals included growing our wholesale accounts, because that was what we focused on in the accelerator. We wanted to buy some more machinery. We wanted to hire woodshop employees. We wanted to increase our direct-to-consumer sales. We wanted to increase those wholesale sales. So 2024 was dedicated to achieving those goals, and we did it. When you look at that list on the wall, we hit every single one of them, which was really satisfying to see that when we put in that work and the learning that we had done in the accelerator, we were able to hit those targets.
That's awesome.
And the main takeaways we walked away from the accelerator with is we originally thought the market we wanted to grow was our corporate gifting market, because we had done a couple large corporate gift projects, one with Porsche, the car company, and another one with Lavazza, a coffee.
Yeah.
And those were great projects, but as we did the accelerator, we realized those leads were incredibly difficult to generate, and it probably was not going to be the easiest market to break into. And we walked away saying, okay, let's think about pursuing more wholesale markets. And we didn't do quite as much homework as we probably should have. And in 2024, we went for it, and we found a sales rep who actually reached out to us because he received a map as a gift and thought it was the coolest thing ever and just really wanted to work for us. He was retiring from his tech software sales job and wanted to try out our product. And he hit the ground running with a lot of energy, and he worked really hard at it and succeeded in some ways in 2024, but ultimately it wasn't as large of a market as we wanted. I think there are just a lot of gift stores, and there wasn't an easy, efficient way to get our product into all of them. So it was just a lot of legwork for something that had been kind of growing organically over time.
But by doing that wholesale market and knowing that we needed to grow that, and in addition to growing our direct-to-consumer brand, we really focused a lot of energy on building a custom piece of software that we've been thinking about since the start of our business, which would allow customers to design a 3D map in real time on our website and then place the order directly to speed up the whole entire sales cycle so that they wouldn't have to email back and forth with me or Nathaniel and lose that customer over drip, just based on how many times you're emailing back and forth and sending different iterations. So this tool that we built, we hired a software developer and then a team of 3 junior software developers to work on that under him. in the spring of 2024. And that went hand in hand with our software or our sales rep, because then once that tool was live, he could bring that custom software to the stores that he was visiting and show customers, hey, you could design your map in real time right here, right now, instead of having to say, oh, we make 3D wooden maps. Yeah, our map maker will get back to you in 4 to 6 weeks, whatever he has a chance to go through the entire queue that you have. And that tool was a game changer for us. In 2024, we launched it in June of 2024, and it led to a 400% increase in custom inquiries. It led to a 6-figure increase in new revenue to the business. It doubled our trade show sales. It really just powered that entire direct-to-consumer business that we knew we had, but weren't doing as efficiently as we could. And that certainly ties back to the accelerator, because we would not have been thinking strategically about how to grow had we not been going through that program, thinking about what are the ways that we need to grow our business, and knowing that that direct-to-consumer market was something that we had reliably as a revenue stream, regardless of if we were testing out corporate gifting or wholesale or large installations, whatnot. We knew we had something that we could continue to drive and continue to grow following that niche.
Yeah. And what we learned too is through that process is doing what you do best is really important. We had these other revenue streams and we realized we tried to grow other ones, and we realized, you know what, we really should just focus on the direct to consumer, because that's what's been successful. And that's what we, looking back now, should have expected to continue to be successful and a little bit easier to grow with this piece of technology that we've been imagining for so long. But once we had it, like Jacob said, it was incredible to see the results go off the charts.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds really like, to the earlier point of like falling in love with the problem, right? Like you guys had the product, there was the clues that you had this great thing there. The problem and solution didn't really present itself until you really dove in, especially with that accelerator, and analyzed the business side of what you were doing and figured out where that problem actually was that would allow you to turn the key on the business. Right. It's really, really cool. So bring us up to speed. You've had a location, you've had some employees, you've been through a couple of seasons now since that accelerator and done fairly well, right?
Yeah,
we have. Yeah. After the web tool, we had a great holiday season this past year. We had 2 workshop employees this past season who were with us for the beginning of the year and then up through the holidays, getting all those maps made, because we're doing our direct consumer and all the wholesale orders, stores are ordering during the fourth quarter. So it gets quite busy. But after a great year, we decided, you know what, let's think about what's our exit. And people always ask us in the beginning, oh, do you have an exit plan? And we said, no. We never even thought about it. And looking back, that was something every entrepreneur should be thinking about in the beginning, because for us, we weren't really scaling to a certain point. We weren't really aiming for anything with it. We just, I think, kind of got lucky where we figured out what worked for us rather than, and it happens to work for someone else. But we reached out to connections in the industry and we found a great buyer, and that buyer was Maple Landmark down in Middlebury, Vermont. And they're a larger, more established wood manufacturer in the state. They specialize in name trains. That's their number one product, where if you have it's really a children's toy, but you can get a train that would slide on wooden tracks, but you get the letters of someone's name and such. But they have over 1,000 wooden products that they sell on their store and have, 30, 40 plus employees. So we're joining their family there, and they'll continue making our maps. And we're still involved for the time being, which is really exciting. But it really just kind of happened because of those connections that we were talking about earlier. But getting to know your community and getting to know the people in Vermont is what led to that business sale. Where if we hadn't done all of that networking in the beginning, this may have happened, but it wouldn't have been easy is not the right word, but it wouldn't have been quite the same, just because it would have been a new relationship where having that previous history allowed us to make the transition a lot smoother.
Right. Now with the maps themselves, was there any actual IP in the maps? Like would you have been able to sell this custom map business without the piece of tech that you developed in the process?
That's a great question. I think the piece of technology definitely helped us move that sale along, because instead of it being relying on someone's specific skill set to be able to make the maps, the tool can generate those maps now.
Very cool.
That was something we've been thinking about for the whole business life cycle. And I think every entrepreneur thinks about is taking yourself out of the equation, because there are certain bottlenecks where, if one of you is needed to solve that problem, it becomes a lot harder to sell that business. So that technology really allowed us to pull Jacob, our cartographer, our map maker, out of the workflow and eventually pass it along to someone new who doesn't have to have that specific skill set. There was still value in the maps themselves. You asked if there was IP with those designs, and technically there is some, but it's not copyrighted. Anyone could theoretically make our maps. The hard part is really having the whole balance of skills that the different partners brought to the business. So it would be really difficult for someone else to recreate our product exactly how it is. We do have a few competitors out there, but by a few, I mean, 3, maybe 4 people across the country, and they're all at a very small scale. So we are really excited for Maple Landmark to take over our business, because we're expecting them to scale it to a point that some of these other makers won't be able to, because they won't have the infrastructure that this larger company has. So the combination of our technology plus their workshop, we're really excited to see what happens next.
Very cool. Very cool. Such an awesome story. So Vermont, it's such a very Vermont product and story. And I love the combination of, the natural materials, some of the other, the polymer that you mentioned you're using to make the water features, and then, the technology, the software that gets integrated makes it such a whole picture, right? It's a full course meal. So what's next for you guys?
That's a great question.
The $1 billion question. Who wants to hire a couple of successful entrepreneurs who are just finishing their exit?
Yeah, I think we didn't expect to have this experience of running and selling a business. I think when we started this, we look back, we were doing something fun with our friends, and then it quickly grew into something that was a viable business, and we were able to sell. I think for myself, the pieces of the business that I've enjoyed the most have been related to the product development, specifically with the custom mapping tool, but also getting customer feedback on our maps and just seeing how the maps have changed and iterated over time. I mean, we look back at our original maps. We just were visiting with Daphne last week, and she showed us the map. We had written number 1, our first map underneath it. And it is a totally different product than what we make now. There are some pieces that are still part of what we do, but it has changed so much based on customer feedback over time. And building those relationships with customers, getting that feedback, and developing something that's totally unique and different has been one of the most gratifying parts of running this business for me.
Very cool.
I think for me, I was definitely more on the operation side of things, where figuring out, okay, how are we going to make these as we grow? Because in the beginning, we had one router and we could make, 3 maps a day, and half of them look bad because something went wrong throughout the process. For over time, you grow, even a couple of employees working all day, you can make just a lot more product. And by the end, it depends on what size we're making, but anywhere from, 20 to 50 maps a day if we're really cranking them out. And I also really liked the sales side of it. I think both of us were very talkative, chatty salespeople. We really loved our story and really loved what we do. So kind of that outward customer client facing role is really appealing to me. But ultimately, when you do entrepreneurship, you learn so much. You wear so many different hats. So we're really just excited for the next opportunity, where it's really about the people and connecting with the right company and the right group of people to grow their business and take it to the next level. And that's probably the number one factor in terms of what we're looking for and what comes next.
Very cool. Are you? Yeah, nice. Yeah. Do you think you'll stay in Vermont? What's your geographic considerations at this point?
I think that's the hope. There's a whole movement to try to get young people to stay in Vermont, bring innovative jobs here, and it is really exciting for me and Nathaniel, I know, to have been part of that movement. And I think we want to keep being able to share that message and share that story, and helping Vermont businesses grow.
Right on. No family settling in yet. No roots quite sunk in the ground here yet.
No, but the longer you stay, the more connections you have and the more rooted you feel. That was what I always said, is it just becomes harder and harder to leave the longer you stay. I think there was a time period when we started out the business that I wanted to leave Vermont or wanted to see other places. But, the longer I've been here, the more it's felt like the right spot.
Right. The world gets smaller. You can always visit, right?
Yeah, right.
Vermont's a great place to stay. Awesome. Well, you mentioned one other thing I want to get in here before we wind down, but you guys have an award coming up in June, right?
We do. Yeah, coming up June 10th, we'll be attending an awards dinner from the Small Business Administration, the U.S. Small Business Administration's Vermont branch. But we were awarded the Young Entrepreneur of the Year award for 2024. So we will be there, and we're really excited to accept that award. And it's great to get recognition for all the work you put into your business.
Very cool. And where's that event going to be?
It's going to be at Hula in Burlington.
Excellent. Yeah, great venue. All right. Awesome. Well, and I suppose if folks want to track you down, get some advice on their business, hire as a consultant, or get you to apply for something, they can find you on LinkedIn. Is that the best way for them to find you, or how else could folks reach out?
Yeah, that sounds great. Or you can check us out on Treeline Terrain's website and learn more about our story there too.
Cass, thank you so much for building a business in Vermont and creating another story of success here. I think that it's such a exemplification of what young people can achieve if they come here for college or stay here perhaps. And, it's such a great mix of, like I said, natural products and innovation and just the spirit you guys bring to it. So thank you again for the, product that you've built and the business you've built here. And thank you for sharing your story with us here.
Thanks so much, Ryan, for having us on.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Find Innovato 2 on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and subscribe to Interchain Live on YouTube for video podcasts. Innovato 2 is a collaboration of Interchain Live and M the Media Project.